Discover how one brave secretary transformed the millionaire CEO's life in 30 days. Incredible. Sarah's heart raced every morning as she navigated through the bustling downtown streets of Chicago. Each step she took toward her office felt heavy with responsibility. A 30-year-old secretary, she often found herself lost in dreams of a future far beyond the confines of her modest paycheck. Her mother, a proud veteran now struggling against the grip of illness, was her beacon of strength and sorrow. Sarah juggled work deadlines while ensuring her mother's fragile world was filled with warmth. She was determined to give back to the woman who had given everything for the country. Every day, Sarah witnessed the stark divide between wealth and want. Masters of the universe roamed the corporate hallways, oblivious to the hardships outside. Then came Ethan, CEO, millionaire, and all-around untouchable. His suit sparkled as brightly as his ego, and Sarah felt an instantaneous clash between their worlds. But when he tasked her with organizing a company retreat that could shape the future of the firm, everything changed. Among the retreat plans, Sarah stumbled upon a revolutionary initiative aimed at uplifting economically disadvantaged communities. The words danced in her mind, flashing bright like neon in a dark alley, a way to give back, to create a ripple of change. Heart-racing, she described her idea to Ethan, envisioning smiles on the faces of those in need. But he dismissed her, arrogance dripping from every word. "We focus on profits, not projects," he said, turning away without a second glance. The rejection stung, like ice water to her dreams. Did he even know what it was like to fight for every bit of hope? With mounting pressures from work and the unyielding weight of her mother's illness, Sarah felt like a puppet on fraying strings. Then the news hit: a community next door, once thriving, now resigned to decay. It ignited something fierce within her. Why wait to make an impact? She needed to act. Just as she clung to the dream, fate intervened. Through her research, she uncovered an old photograph of Ethan, young and worn, standing with fellow soldiers. It struck a deep chord. Beneath the polished exterior was a man who too had battled hardships. With fists clenched, Sarah confronted him, shaking his confidence. "You once fought for something greater, didn't you?" She pressed, her voice steady despite the tremors beneath. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As days melted into one another, the tensions boiled over, morphing into unexpected collaboration. Sarah's resolve began softening Ethan's hardened edges, illuminating the truth in their shared narratives. He listened, truly listened, for the first time, eyes narrowing, reflecting a flicker of something long buried. Resilience forged a bond between them. She learned true strength doesn't lie in the weight one carries, but in the hearts that beat alongside. However, just as they were ready to set their plan into motion, a complication surfaced, darkening their outlook. Would they bridge the chasm between wealth and humility before the moment slipped away? As the stakes escalated, one question whispered in the air, hanging heavy with anticipation. Could they push through the walls built of privilege and pride to transform their fates together? The days stretched like long shadows, ample with hope yet clouded by uncertainty. Sarah couldn't suppress the thrill of their growing partnership, yet an unease gnawed at her heart. The community project they envisioned needed to ignite a spark of compassion in Ethan, a man who had turned cold under the weight of wealth. Every moment spent together, she saw glimpses of the soldier he once was, but doubt lingered like a ghost. "Let's get together this weekend and really flesh out the initiative," she suggested, a flicker of optimism lighting up her voice despite the hesitation that bundled within. Ethan stared at her, conflicted. He wanted to support her, yet the gears of his corporate world turned slowly, burdened by the risks of stepping outside their business box. I'll think about it," he finally said, almost too softly for Sarah to hear. That didn't feel like a yes. Maybe it was just corporate talk. But she wouldn't let despair cloud her spirit. She spent her Friday evening poring over community needs and potential partnerships. The words of her mother echoed in her mind. Sometimes, you just have to leap, my dear. Dancing between determination and fear, Sarah decided to draft a proposal, a detailed plan that could change everything. Saturday dawned bright. She arrived at the office, ready to put her heart on paper, when she found Ethan already sitting at his desk, sleeves rolled up, a furrow in his brow. Despite the cool professionalism he exuded, there was something genuine about the way he immersed himself in the materials she had prepared. Sarah's heart fluttered. Maybe he was actually coming around. Good morning, she greeted, sliding into the chair across from him. Did you have a chance to look over any of this? I did, he replied, a hint of sincerity behind his eyes. He flipped through the pages. You've really put a lot of thought into this. Thank you, she breathed, feeling a warmth swell within her. It matters a lot to me. This could turn lives around. Ethan nodded, but a shadow of conflict crossed his features. But you know this isn't just an easy fix, right? It isn't just about fixing anything, she countered, her voice steady. It's about giving hope, creating opportunities, and showing we care. That's what makes us human. He paused, his gaze unfocused as if he were weighing more than just the papers between them. I understand, but people in this world don't often see beneath the surface. Not when it comes to money. As he spoke, Sarah stepped closer to the heart of the matter, fueled by desperation and clarity. Sometimes, Ethan, it takes someone to pull back the curtains. Maybe that someone is you. Her words hung in the air, charged with desperation and urgency. For a split second, Ethan seemed to waver, as if the hardened armor he wore was beginning to crack. She could feel the tension shift, an unseen force humming between them. Let us take this to the board next week, he finally declared. I'll support the project, but I can't guarantee the outcome. A thrill shot through her, mingled with apprehension. That's a start. We can prepare together. The next few days blurred in a frenzy of anxiety and excitement. They worked tirelessly, crafting a presentation that combined statistics, heartfelt stories, and a vision that transcended profits. But as the sun sank low on the eve of their presentation, doubt swept back in like a tidal wave. Sarah couldn't shake the fear that Ethan might falter in front of the board. How could a man raised in wealth truly advocate for those who had never tasted its sweetness? As she lay in bed that night, her phone buzzed with an unexpected message. Ethan, are you still awake? I need to talk. Her heart raced. What could it mean? Instinctively, she sensed it was significant. She typed back quickly, I'm here. Silence stretched until finally, a ping. Meet me at our favorite coffee shop? A sense of worry wrapped around her like a cloak, thickening the air around her. What was Ethan about to unveil? With all the emotions surging inside her, one thought rose above the rest. Were they truly ready for what lay ahead? The answer felt dangerously close, and she knew whatever came next would be the turning point. The anxious night melted into dawn, bringing with it a chill that mirrored Sarah's nerves. She dressed quickly, her mind racing with questions about Ethan's message. Was he reconsidering? Did he have doubts? This clandestine meeting felt heavy with unspoken words. The coffee shop was unusually quiet, its warm aroma curling around her as she stepped inside. She found Ethan already seated at a corner table, his deep-set eyes scanning the room, a storm roiling beneath his calm exterior. She slid into the seat across from him, feeling the weight of the moment. Thanks for coming, he said, his voice steady, yet there was a quiver, a tremor beneath his composed facade. What is going on? You sounded serious in your message, she asked, bracing herself for whatever he was about to share. He leaned forward, the shadows beneath his eyes deepening. I've been thinking about a lot of things. The project, our roles, my past. He paused, searching for the right words. I had a different life before all this. He gestured broadly, indicating the corporate world that surrounded them like a cage. Ethan, I know you've carried a lot with you, she said softly, leaning in. But this project could be a way to help you and other people. A flicker of something in his eyes reminded her of the soldier he had been. It's not that simple. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, the expectations. This company runs on profit. Projects like yours often get dismissed. Then let us change that narrative together, she urged, emboldened by his honesty. But I need you to be all in. Are you willing to fight for it? He hesitated, and Sarah could feel the storm within him brewing. You make it sound easy, but stepping outside of your comfort zone can be terrifying. I've lost people before, friends, family. I can't afford to lose more. The vulnerability in his admission shook Sarah. You know, fear is a part of all of us. It's about making choices that matter. You coming into this fight means a lot, not just for the project, but for you. Ethan stared at her, his expression shifting as realization dawned. What if I fail? What if I let you down? Then we learn from it and try again. Nothing is ever perfect. But what if you find something in yourself that you didn't know was there? His silence was deafening as he soaked in her words. It was as if time stood still around them, the coffee shop fading into a blur of muted conversations and clinking cups. Then he straightened, locking eyes with her, determination flashing through. I'll speak to the board. I'll back you up, he declared. His voice was steady now, filled with conviction, and Sarah felt relief flood through her. But then he added, however, I need to show them it's more than just charity work. I need to prove there's a benefit to our bottom line too. Can you help me with that? Her heart surged not only with relief, but with excitement. Absolutely. We'll craft a plan that shows how these initiatives can uplift the community and, in turn, our company. I appreciate you believing in me, he said, a touch of warmth breaking through his guarded demeanor. Let us make sure this is a definitive step forward. Their conversation shifted into plans, brainstorming ideas that melded statistics with stories. Laughter punctuated moments of tension, and Sarah found herself captivated, imagining a future where their work could transform lives. But just as quickly as the hope built, a darker thought began to creep in. Would this newfound drive withstand the corporate pressures they both faced? As they wrapped up, Ethan leaned back, a newfound light in his eyes. Tomorrow, we'll present, and I'll stay true to my word. But, Sarah, remember that being brave isn't just about taking leaps, it's about facing the consequences. An unease settled in Sarah's stomach as she agreed. But something stirred deeper, a thrill they could tackle it all together. As they exited the coffee shop, the sun slicing through the clouds, she felt a flicker of clarity. The conversation had shifted something crucial between them, but tomorrow's presentation loomed large. Ahead, an unknown filled with both promise and peril. What awaited them in the boardroom? And would this joint effort truly ignite the change they both yearned for in their worlds? The uncertainty clung to her, electrifying and alarming. The morning sun poured through the office windows, casting long shadows that stretched across the polished floor. Sarah found herself pacing in the small conference room, the proposal documents laid out in a neat row on the table. Her heart raced. Today was a moment that could redefine everything. Ethan entered, his usual composed demeanor slightly ruffled. The vest he wore seemed more like armor than attire, and the tightening of his jaw revealed the struggle behind his confident facade. Are you ready? He asked, his voice steady but edged with tension. I am, she replied, though her stomach twisted in knots. She had practiced dozens of times, rehearsing each slide and every statistic. She believed in their vision, but today was about convincing others. As they walked to the main boardroom, Sarah's mind reeled. What if the board was indifferent? What if Ethan's past weighed too heavily on him? She needed him fully engaged today. Pushing the door open, they stepped inside to find the board members already seated, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken opinions. Ethan took his seat at the head of the table, a place of authority that seemed to amplify his resolve even further. Sarah stood beside him, passing out the documents she had poured her heart into. Thank you all for being here. We're excited to present our proposal on integrating community-focused initiatives with our business model, she began, trying to inject warmth into the sterile atmosphere. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes meeting hers. We aim to create social value while showcasing the profitable potential of investing in change, he added, his voice rising with conviction. As he spoke, Sarah sensed his confidence building. The first few questions from the board were predictable, underlying their doubts about profitability and the risk involved. But with each inquiry, Ethan responded with unanticipated passion, a fire ignited by Sarah's earlier belief in him. Their synergy was palpable. As they moved through the presentation, Sarah felt the tide starting to turn. She could see nods of interest and even a few impressed glances. Describing a project that connected their company with a local after-school program, she painted a vivid picture of children thriving, communities uplifting each other, and profits rising alongside social responsibility. But just when hope surged, an unexpected voice piped up. Margaret, the most conservative member of the board. This sounds nice in theory, but how can we ensure it won't distract from our main goals? Data shows that corporate philanthropy often leads to diluted focus. She challenged. A silence enveloped the room, the only sound the ticking of the clock, each tick resonating with Sarah's rising anxiety. Ethan's hand clenched the table, and for a heartbeat, it seemed all their efforts hung on a thread. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan took a deep breath. He turned toward Sarah, eyes brightening as he recalled their earlier conversation. We can demonstrate the impact through measurable outcomes. It's not just giving back, it's a strategy. Our bottom line can benefit from thriving communities, he asserted, unleashing statistics and case studies only hinted at before. As he spoke, Sarah scanned the room. For the first time, Margaret's expression softened. She seemed to weigh Ethan's words against her own beliefs. Confidence flowed through Sarah. They just had to hold on to it. But just as the room began to engage more openly, Ethan paused for a moment, his intense focus flickering. I need to share something personal, he declared suddenly. The room went still, all eyes on him. What is it? Sarah's heart raced. The truth of his past could take this in an unexpected direction. I've struggled with the choices I've made. I've seen firsthand how neglect can destroy lives. These are not just numbers, they're people, he continued, his voice thick with emotion. Sarah felt a wave of warmth wash over her, a reminder of the journey they had taken together. Could this moment undo his fears? Smash the walls he kept built around him. While he spoke, a side glance from another board member passed between them, whispers of understanding circulating. As Ethan concluded, a newfound quiet settled over the room, a heavy expectancy. He had bravely shared his truth, turning despair into urgency, but would it be enough? Would they rally behind the vision he painted? The air was electric. Sarah's heartbeat echoed in her ears. The outcome lay suspended in the air, a delicate balance that could tip any moment. Hope flickered like a candle in the wind. What would the board decide? And could Ethan's vulnerability truly sway opinions grounded in profit and precedent? The silence that followed Ethan's confession felt almost oppressive. Sarah could feel the weight of anticipation like a palpable force in the room. As she met the gaze of each board member, searching for a hint of their thoughts, a wave of nervous energy coursed through her. She wanted to believe they could see the potential in Ethan's words, in their vision. Then Margaret spoke again, her voice softer now. Ethan, that takes a lot of courage to share. A collective breath seemed to release from the group. Sarah felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the breakthrough they needed. Thank you, Margaret, Ethan replied, visibly relaxing as he absorbed her acknowledgement. I know that risk is a part of any growth. But investing in our community isn't just good for our image, it's good business. We've all seen what happens when a community thrives, it lifts us all up. There was a shift in the room, a quiet hum of agreement starting to bubble beneath the surface. The tension that had bound their voices began to dissolve, little by little. Then, a younger board member, Michael, leaned forward. Can you give us examples of companies that have successfully integrated similar initiatives? His tone was more curious than challenging. Ethan jumped at the chance, his eyes lighting up. Absolutely. There are many companies that have reported increased customer loyalty and satisfaction as a result of being involved in their communities. Take XYZ Corporation, they saw a 20% rise in their annual sales after launching a local educational program. They didn't only gain support from the community, but also from partnerships that further expanded their market reach. Sarah could see the flickers of interest turning into full-blown engagement. Even Margaret nodded slightly, Though her brows still held a flicker of skepticism, they dove deeper into statistics and case studies. The conversation started flowing more freely, and Sarah felt herself mirroring Ethan's newfound confidence. He was steering the meeting in a direction that she'd only dared to dream about moments ago, but as the meeting progressed, doubt crept back in. What if Margaret still held reservations? What if she was just being polite, letting this moment of camaraderie slip through their fingers? Ethan, what is your plan for measuring success after we begin implementing these initiatives? Margaret asked again, the edge to her voice sharp as ever. Ethan didn't miss a beat. We will set clear KPIs, key performance indicators specific to each project. Regular updates will keep the board and all employees in the loop on progress. Our approach will be based on transparency, where everyone can see how the community and our business thrive together. His words flowed out, imbued with urgency and clarity. Sarah noticed how the other board members leaned in closer, some even jotting notes. There was something powerful in their collective willingness to engage with each other. As the discussion continued, a realization settled in Sarah's chest. This was not just about the proposal anymore. They were redefining what their company stood for together. Yet as excitement blossomed, a familiar pang of fear nudged at her. What if they lost momentum? What if denial after all this brave speaking undermined everything? Ethan wrapped up the discussion, calling for a vote on whether to proceed with the next steps. Sarah's throat tightened. The air was thick again, charged with uncertainty. Suddenly, Margaret stood up. I think it's time. I have some reservations, but there's too much potential here to ignore. I'm willing to give it a shot. Gasps filled the room at her unexpected endorsement, and a wave of relief washed over Sarah. But as the board members glanced at one another, their faces painted with uncertainty, Sarah realized they were still on a precarious edge. Before she could exhale, another voice cut through the air, heavy with skepticism. But what if this backfires on us? Sarah felt her heart drop. Just when they seemed to be moving forward, a shadow darkened the room once more. Would they really be able to navigate this minefield? With the pivotal decision hanging in the balance, Sarah did her best to steady her breath. The anticipation built once more, a feeling ripe with possibility, but fraught with danger. What were the risks they were truly willing to face? And how deep did their commitment to each other run? As the board deliberated, Sarah's eyes darted between Ethan and the rest of the room, searching for hints of resolve or fear. Would they believe in their dream enough to embrace unknown outcomes? The moment felt electric. Anything could happen next. The room simmered with tension, each board member wrestling with their own fears and hopes. Sarah sat on the edge of her seat, her heart racing. She could almost feel the weight of the world on Ethan's shoulders. He was risk-taker, a dreamer. This was a moment that could change everything, not just for Ethan, but for all of them. I understand the concerns, Ethan said slowly, as if testing the waters. But let us consider the alternative. What if we do nothing and miss out on this chance? We could become irrelevant while other companies move ahead, building strong roots in their communities. Margaret, hesitant yet intrigued, crossed her arms. You make a valid point, Ethan. But how do we handle the backlash if this doesn't go as planned? We'd be leaving ourselves open to criticism. Sarah caught Ethan's eye, willing him to keep going, to keep pushing. A proactive approach to any potential backlash can turn critics into supporters. If we're transparent about our challenges and celebrate our successes, we can create an image of resilience. Our community will see that we care, regardless of the outcomes. Their murmurs filled the air, some cautious, some leaning towards agreement. Sarah dared to hope, feeling the stirrings of possibility amongst the dissent. Michael, perhaps the boldest among them, chimed in. I'll admit, I've been skeptical. But if we commit to this as a team, if we show the community we're in it together, we could really redefine our brand. Yes, exactly, Ethan said, his enthusiasm igniting the room. This is about unity. We'll work together through the missteps, learning and adjusting along the way. Let us not view this as a gamble, but rather as an investment in our future. As he spoke, the tension began to dissolve, replaced by a growing sense of camaraderie. The collective energy shifted, a gentle rhythm of agreement starting to hum again. Sarah's eyes darted around, noticing the corner of Margaret's mouth twitch. Was that a hint of a smile? But just as Sarah believed they might be turning a corner, the same skeptical voice echoed through the room, louder this time. But at what cost? What if we drain resources from other critical areas? This is corporate, it's not charity. We need to think strategically. Ethan took a breath, his shoulders squared. You're right, we need to be strategic. I don't propose we ignore our core responsibilities. Instead, we can align our values with our operations. Community initiatives can run parallel to existing projects, even enhance them. It's not about charity, it's about partnership. The passion in his voice was palpable. Sarah felt the energy tightening like a spring, ready to launch. Remember, she interjected, this isn't about diverting resources, but about redefining who we are as a company, making our brand more relatable, more human. Isn't that the direction we all want to go? An unexpected tension filled the air as the board members exchanged glances, weighing Sarah's words. Let us vote, Margaret said, her voice steady, but laced with anticipation. But I want a clear commitment from everyone. If we're doing this, we do it as a team right from the get-go. We either go all in together or not at all. Sarah felt a flush of warmth sweep through her, an affirmation of what they stood for. The moment hung, electric and fraught with possibility. Would this truly be the moment they all united, ready to leap together into the unknown? As they began to cast their votes, Sarah's pulse raced. She felt the weight of the decision pressing down like heavy fog, thick and immovable. Would the majority choose to embrace change, or would hesitation pull them back into the safe, familiar shadows? Just then, a sudden thought struck her. If they chose to move forward, they wouldn't just change the company, they would change themselves. And in that shift lay the potential for something beautiful. But when the results were announced, Sarah's heart sank. The votes were what lay ahead was filled with uncertainty, yet Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that whatever happened next would matter deeply. Would they embrace their chance to redefine everything? The room fell into silence as the results were announced. Sarah's breath quickened, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. The board members sat frozen, the air thick with disbelief. 3 votes against, 5 in favor. Margaret's voice trembled slightly. The motion passes. A cacophony of reactions rippled through the group. Some erupted in quiet celebrations, nods and tight smiles passing like a wave. Others stared at their hands, unable to hide their doubt. Ethan's face lit up, the relief evident. He looked around the room, searching for reassurance and unity after the vote. Sarah's stomach sank. 3 voices out of 8 felt seismic. Would those few ultimately undermine the team's efforts? We've got a lot of work ahead of us, she said, choosing to focus on the positives. We need to rally our champions, find our supporters, highlight the vision we've set forth today. Ethan stepped closer to Sarah, a glimmer of confidence returning in his eyes. Yes, let us create a plan to reach out to those voices. We need to show the skeptical members, the ones who didn't vote with us, that this choice will have meaningful impact. We can't forget their concerns. We owe it to them to listen. Their exchange momentarily lifted the weight pressing down on Sarah. It was easy to get lost in the dark shadows of uncertainty, but she could feel the flicker of hope sparking back to life. We should outline a timeline, Margaret chimed in, her tone shifting to match the room's energy. Set milestones for what we want to achieve and share our progress regularly with everyone, including the dissenters. It'll help build trust. Great idea, Michael said, his earlier hesitations seeming to dissolve. And we should emphasize community involvement right off the bat. We could host an open forum, gather ideas, and show that we want everyone to be part of this journey. With that, a brainstorming session kicked off, and Sarah watched as the energy shifted again, conversations flowing freely, ideas soaring. There was a spark in the room that she hadn't felt before. It was contagious and strengthening. While they had just made a challenging decision, this newfound enthusiasm felt like a stepping stone toward something greater. But Sarah couldn't ignore the nagging worry clawing at her insides. Despite the positive vibe, there were still those who had voted against the initiative. Would their dissent fester into distractions? She scanned the room for the faces of the board members who sat quietly during the exchanges. Ethan, she finally uttered, pulling him aside. Don't you think we need to address the naysayers quickly? We can't let this divide fester. We need to bring everyone into this together, or it'll become a problem. He nodded solemnly, pursing his lips. You're absolutely right. We can't afford to alienate anyone now. Let us set a meeting next week, reinvigorate the conversation, and draw them into our plans. Sarah felt a weight slowly lifting. They had momentum now, but one misstep could derail it. And what if they don't respond? What if they focus on the negative? We can't let their skepticism define our direction. Ethan studied her, and for a moment, silence filled the space between them. Then he broke into a genuine smile, whispering, "That's where I think you shine, Sarah. You have a way of understanding the heart of our people. Help me craft that message." Her heart fluttered at his compliment, a warm flicker illuminating her chest. She realized then that, even amidst the uncertainty, a bond was forming, an alliance rooted not just in business, but in the passion they shared. As they left the boardroom, Sarah could feel the possibilities unfolding before her. However, the weight of doubt lingered, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. With a plan in motion and a desire to unite, the stakes were higher than ever. Could they indeed find a way to turn the doubters into believers? Or would the cracks begin to show before they had a chance to take flight? The answers danced just beyond reach, waiting to reveal themselves in the days to come. The week rolled forward, carrying with it an undercurrent of tension. With the meeting just days away, Sarah felt the weight of anticipation pressing down on her shoulders. Ideas buzzed in her mind like busy bees, but doubt still hovered close, threatening to sting her resolve. She spent her evenings sketching out messages, envisioning how to engage the board members who had resisted the motion. The night before their big meeting, Sarah found herself staring at the blank screen of her laptop. Walls of uncertainty had closed in around her. What if they rejected the plan? What if her vision failed to resonate? Her mind drifted back to the skeptical expressions she'd glimpsed during the vote. Would anything she crafted change their minds? Ethan sent her a quick message, "Can we meet?" It was enough to stir her spirits back to life. They met at a small cafe that buzzed with the warmth of conversation and the smell of fresh coffee. Sitting across from each other, their notes spread out like battle plans, Sarah felt an electric connection reinforce her hope. "We can start by acknowledging their concerns." Ethan's eyes sparkled with determination. "We need to show we understand their fears without dismissing them outright." "Absolutely," Sarah replied, scribbling down his words while her spirits lifted. "What if we framed it as a partnership? A way to blend ideas for a better outcome, rather than just pushing forward with our agenda?" Ethan leaned back, contemplating her suggestion. "That's it. If they feel like they're part of the conversation rather than being talked at, they could be more receptive." As they continued to brainstorm, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. This being in collaboration, sharing ideas was what she had always loved about projects. Together, they crafted a message that focused on unity, empathy, and inclusion. Each sentence crafted was a thread weaving them closer to a unified front. Over the next couple of days, they rehearsed their presentation countless times. Sarah couldn't shake the reminder of the dissenters waiting for them. What if they still don't respond favorably? She laid bare her feelings, her voice quiet with apprehension. Ethan reached across the table, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "Then we'll adjust. But I truly believe that once they feel heard, things will change." When the day of the meeting arrived, Sarah's heartbeat raced wildly. They entered the boardroom together, the tension palpable as they faced their colleagues. Sarah's eyes swept across the room, spotting the familiar expressions, some curious, others hardened by time and scrutiny. She and Ethan stood side by side, their presentation displayed prominently on the screen behind them. "Thank you all for being here," Sarah began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "We wanted to talk about our recent initiative, not just from our perspective but yours as well." As they shared their carefully crafted message, she noticed the shifting expressions of her colleagues. A few tense faces softened with understanding, while others still held reservations. But she pressed on, revealing the data and the solid reasoning behind their plans, inviting questions with open arms. With each response, Sarah felt the room react. Mild nods appeared, hesitant at first, but growing in number. Encouraged, she opened the floor for input, and as fellow board members began offering their thoughts, a glimmer of collaboration sparked in the room. Then, just when Sarah hoped for a smooth end, Rebecca, one of the dissenters, raised her hand. I appreciate the effort, but there are still aspects of this I just don't agree with. How can we be sure this will genuinely involve our community? A hush fell over the room. Sarah's heart raced again, yet she felt Ethan's calming presence beside her. We can commit to more open forums, regular updates, and feedback sessions. This initiative belongs to everyone, and that means we all play a part. The discussion flowed from there, gradually turning to constructive dialogue. The atmosphere shifted, tension easing like a fog. Lifting on a bright day. Yet, even in this light, Sarah couldn't shake the sense that Rebecca's challenge marked a turning point. As the meeting came to a close, Sarah felt hopeful, but also aware that one contentious voice could very well ignite old divisions. She couldn't get complacent, not now that they had tasted approval. Walking out of the boardroom, Ethan turned to her, a wide smile on his face. That went better than I expected. Yeah, but we're not done yet, Sarah replied, her brow furrowed in thought. We need to keep this momentum alive through. And just like that, she realized the tough part was only beginning. Her heart raced again, not from nerves, but from the thrill of the unknown. How could they build an enduring bridge between the factions, ensuring real collaboration? She felt the weight of the challenge ahead settle upon her anew. But even amidst the uncertainty, she held the shimmering spark of hope close. What could this initiative really become? Could they defy the odds and forge true unity in the community? The clock was ticking, and the next chapter of their journey was about to unfold. The sun shone brightly the next day, but Sarah hardly noticed as she stared out the window of her office. The aftermath of the meeting lingered like a bittersweet aftertaste. The fleeting joy of possible collaboration was overshadowed by the realization of the challenges that lay ahead. She wanted to bask in the moment, but there was urgency in her thoughts how to sustain the spark now ignited. Her phone buzzed on the desk, breaking her reverie. It was Ethan. Let's regroup. We need a game plan for the next steps. Meeting up in the same cafe, a comforting backdrop of steaming mugs and engaged chatter swirled around them. Ethan was already there when Sarah walked in, his notepad open and pen poised. I've made some notes on feedback, especially Rebecca's points. That's a smart move, she said, slipping into the seat across from him, her pulse quickening at the sight of his determined expression. She's the key player if we want to win over the others. Maybe we should schedule a follow-up meeting with her to discuss her concerns in detail. Ethan nodded. Exactly. We need her to feel like she has a stake in this. Let's approach her with a proposal that incorporates some of her ideas. The two dove into discussions, brainstorming what a workshop might look like, an open forum where everyone could voice their ideas and worries. As they plotted out the outlines, Sarah felt a surge of energy. If they could keep the lines of communication open, maybe they could turn Rebecca's resistance into an opportunity for growth. They spent hours preparing a schedule and layout for the workshop, deciding to have breakout sessions, allowing people to form smaller groups where they felt safer speaking up. The idea sparked excitement in Sarah. If they can connect, share stories, and even challenge each other's thoughts in a respectful way, it could build trust. Ethan smiled, clearly inspired. You're on fire today. Let us get this show on the road. Days turned into a blur of planning, emails, and mobilizing support. Around the office, word of their initiative spread, shifting from skeptical whispers to hopeful conversations. Sarah could feel the energy in the air begin to change. Their resolve drew people in, making them eager to be part of something bigger. She was standing before the whiteboard in the boardroom one afternoon, muscles tensed with foreboding as she jotted down a few last-minute details for the workshop. Suddenly, Rebecca entered the room, and Sarah's heart raced. Was this a good or a bad omen? Hi, Sarah, Rebecca said, her voice steady but guarded. I wanted to see what you and Ethan are up to. I've heard a lot of talk about this workshop. Sarah swallowed hard, then shot a welcoming smile. It's great to see you. We're really excited about it. We want to create a space where everyone can express their thoughts on the project. Rebecca crossed her arms, observing closely. And how do you plan on addressing the potential pushback? There's still a lot of skepticism among the board. Taking a deep breath, Sarah sensed the moment was pivotal. We're aiming to allow open communication, feedback, and coexistence of ideas. Your voice is crucial in shaping this, and I want to ensure it's all heard. To her surprise, she saw a glimmer of interest in Rebecca's eyes. You know, if you truly intend to make it inclusive, I'd be willing to help steer the discussions. We can't have half measures. Sarah's heart warmed at the unexpected offer. That would be amazing. Together, I think we can address those concerns head-on. As they scripted out details together, the room shifted from tension to a cautious sense of hope, and for the first time, Sarah felt like they were truly expressing a vision that could be collective. But in the back of her mind, uncertainty lingered. If they were to reach the goal of collaboration, it meant confronting even heavier criticisms that she wasn't ready to face. With a renewed fire igniting within her, Sarah wondered as they wrapped up their session. Would this bridge be strong enough to withstand future storms? Could they truly foster an environment filled with trust and solidarity? The clock was ticking, and she realized the ultimate test was just around the corner. What would their first workshop reveal, and who would emerge as allies or adversaries? The day of the workshop arrived, bright and clear, yet Sarah felt the storm brewing in her stomach. Today was a test. Would their vision of collaboration ignite a spark, or would it lead to another dead end? As employees trickled into the conference room, each person brought with them their concerns, opinions, and hopes. Sarah glanced around, taking in the mix of faces, some eager, some skeptical, and others indifferent. Ethan stood beside her, his shoulders squared in a way that revealed both tension and resolve. "We've got this," he whispered, offering a reassuring smile that eased some of her dread. "Welcome, everyone," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the fluttering inside. "We're here to share thoughts, ideas, and concerns about our community initiative." As Sarah laid out the agenda, she saw Rebecca slip into the room, her expression carefully neutral. It was suddenly clear this was not just about sharing ideas, but finding common ground amidst doubt. The workshop began with everyone sharing their hopes for the project. Sarah watched as the initial hesitance transformed into animated discussions. She saw people move from isolation to connection, their voices weaving together in a tapestry of opinions. But soon enough, some familiar concerns arose. What is the real point of this? If we're not careful, we'll divert our focus. A voice from the back of the room cut through the gathering. Ethan stepped in, his voice resonant with confidence. "That's exactly why we're here. To ensure we don't lose sight of our core goals. Let us address the worries head-on and find a way to blend our missions." It was a pivotal moment. Sarah noticed Rebecca nodding thoughtfully. Encouraged, Sarah spoke. "We want this to become part of our identity, not just a side project. Together, we can find viable ways to integrate our community initiatives with our business practices." Then came the breakthrough. Someone in the crowd, brimming with excitement, offered a suggestion. What if we connect local businesses to our initiatives? It could benefit both the community and us. Ideas cascaded, like droplets of rain forming into a river. Then, Rebecca took the floor, her tone transformed. "I like this. Let us not just create a program, we should foster partnerships. If we involve those who benefit, we won't have to defend our goals. They'll be visibly linked," she said, passion igniting her words. The room buzzed with energy. Their collective fears and skepticism were still woven into the conversation, yet optimism surged like wildfire. Sarah exchanged glances with Ethan, sensing a shift towards unity. As the workshop drew to a close, Sarah stood before her colleagues, her heart racing. "This is just the beginning. Let us take our energy from this discussion and turn it into action. We'll meet again soon to solidify our plans." Cheers erupted. Each voice was a celebration of ideas, encouraging those present to feel seen and heard. After the formalities ended, Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder. It was Ethan, his eyes shining with pride. "We did it, Sarah. This is what I envisioned." But she also felt Rebecca, now standing beside them. "I want us to keep this momentum, to foster communication as we move forward. It's more than business, it's about our community. With a full heart, Sarah nodded. Absolutely. Together, we'll make sure we keep this dialogue flowing. Days turned into weeks, and the momentum they created solidified into plans and action. The community project began to take shape, inviting local voices as stakeholders. The transformations were magic. As the effort blossomed, Sarah saw hope arise in the faces around her. Smiles broadened, relationships deepened, and people began to envision futures intertwined with their community. Months later, standing at the groundbreaking of a community center birthed through their initiative, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The sun blazed warmly against her skin and laughter filled the air. She turned to look at Ethan, who stood beside her, pride radiating from him. "This is what we fought for," she said, her voice hushed and filled with awe. Ethan nodded, emotion thick in the air between them. "You opened my eyes to what truly matters. Thank you for believing in me and leading this." With tears of joy glistening in her eyes, Sarah smiled brightly. They had turned dreams into reality not just for themselves, but for countless others. As they watched children playing and families gathered, she remembered her mother's words, "Sometimes, you just have to leap." And leap they did together. So now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and move you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly matters. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from true fans like you, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread this message of hope and unity together.